I love blacks.
Alex Jones with us, legendary broadcaster, friend of the show. I've been lucky enough to speak to him about a lot of the crazy shit that has gone on the past 10 years. And, you know, we'll just come right out with it. We want to get your read on what is going on because, you know, from the outside, the Trump administration campaigns on exposing this cover-up, blowing the lid off this cover-up. And then they get in office, and now it seems like they're part of this cover-up. So what, in your estimation, has happened?
Well, all I can do is observe from the outside. I have a lot of sources and some inside baseball on what's happening. But the fact I know is this. 15 days ago, they leaked to Axios, the Justice Department, this. Epstein didn't get murdered, and there wasn't human trafficking, and there wasn't any blackmail, and case closed. And that flies in the face of the court cases, the evidence, the intelligence connections, everything we know. And then I came out on that Monday, 14 days ago, and I said, this isn't Pam Bondi. And I'm not defending her. I agree. She's in over her head, like you said. She should go back to policing jet skis in Florida. But then he comes out the next day and says on True Social, no, we need the FBI to move on. I told him to do this. And the next day in a press conference, he chews out the reporter when they're talking about all these issues, saying, how dare you desecrate the graves of dead kids in Texas with the floods? Shut up. And it's uncharacteristic for Trump. He looks scared. He looks concerned. And then all the other True Social posts about if you ask questions, you're with the Democrats, and this is all a Democrat made-up hoax, and you're just idiots. When all his surrogates had promised they'd bring this out, he talked about bringing it out. So this is Harry-Carry. This is seppuku. For those that don't know, in Japanese, that means suicide. And I had the head of Rasmussen Polling on, the best polling agency, the most accurate on record today. He said Trump has lost 14 points with independents, 5 points with his main base. Like Steve Bannon said a week ago, that'll lose him, before Rasmussen reported it, his dead reckoning was right, 40 seats probably in the midterms in a year and a half. This is Trump self-harming. And from all my research, you know, he knew Epstein, there were socialites, all that, but they would have already used this, the deep state. They had something. The Jane Does they brought out turned out weren't even real people. You know, they'd said that Melania was a hooker that Epstein introduced to her at a modeling agency. We looked into that. It was Trump's modeling agency. That wasn't true. So they're kind of regurgitating all that on one hand. So why did Trump act so panicked, deer in the headlights, and you know, come out and say, there is no list. Okay, there is a list, but you're still an idiot if you look at it, to, okay, we'll have Pam Bondi release the grand jury transcripts from Ghislaine Maxwell that Comey's daughter ran the cover up on, and the Epstein case 6 years ago where he died in jail. So you couldn't do a bigger Streisand effect. You couldn't come out and say, I'm more guilty than what he did. And my loyalty is to the truth. I'm actually autistic about it. You know, I can't, even if I want Trump to succeed and Democrats are my sworn enemy trying to put me in prison, I'm just like having to report this, that this is beyond insane.
Yeah.
And it's like Trump blowing his feet off with a 12-gauge shotgun.
Well, we know that this was not only a blackmail operation, but it was also a money laundering operation. And we know that Jeffrey Epstein was working for billionaires like Les Wexner and many others. And we know that there's been a lot of talk about the connections that Epstein had to intelligence, and moving money around the world, making sums of money disappear. Is it a complete coincidence that a lot of this seemed to happen around the time that Benjamin Netanyahu paid a visit to the White House?
Well, as usual, Tim Dillon, you're very informed, not just a comedian, and you've nailed it. I don't want to attack Israel. I'm not a big Israel hater, but Netanyahu is, in my view, the villain of the last 25 years in Israel, in and out of power. It definitely is the cliche of Israel trying to manipulate the United States internal politics and foreign policy, particularly in the Middle East. So definitely Netanyahu's heavily involved in. Ghislaine Maxwell, who was convicted of, human trafficking, though the new memos, and Trump says there is none of that. Well, then how is she convicted? Her dad, Robert Maxwell, was on record Mossad, buried Mount of Olives with military honors and MI6 and Russian intelligence reportedly, fell off his yacht when all this came out. And just like when he died decades ago, all of a sudden billions of dollars was sucked out of his bank accounts. And so from my evidence and research, it's pretty conclusive. Epstein was a junior to Ghislaine, who took over the family MI6, CIA, Mossad business, because that level, they're all interconnecting. And it was more than just trafficking underage girls. That was kind of like a side hors d'oeuvre or little rider. The larger issue was money laundering. And then now the Democrats have honed in on this. I said months ago and weeks ago that, Trump needs to not just call for the grand jury stuff to be released or the stuff from her trial or the trial that ever happened because Epstein died in custody there in New York in that detention center. We should demand the billions. It was 1.1 billion right after he died, but it was actually over $1 billion when he was in custody 5.5 years ago in New York that was sucked out of his business account. And so we know that's at the Treasury Department. So now Senator Wyden and others, as I predicted a month ago and 2 weeks ago, before this broke, I said Trump should release it because I could see that's where it's going. Where did the billions of dollars go right before and right after he died? And so I agree with you, very astute. I was going to make that point. This isn't even so much about human trafficking as it is about the money laundering that was going on. And then you've got Bill Barr, whose dad, Donald Barr, ran the school, that Epstein at 20 got hired with no credentials to be the top math teacher. And then Barr was OSS CIA, his dad, Donald Barr. Then Barr was CIA, kind of the head of Iran-Contra operations at the White House. And then his dad, Donald Barr, writes a book about space relations, about aliens on a planet that kidnap human girls to rape them. And then they train humans to enjoy it and join them in the raping of children. This is beyond crazy. And he hires Epstein to do all this. And so, yeah, Trump had beauty pageants and Trump had casinos and Trump had golf courses and Trump, was involved in sporting events. And so I thought, well, if they ever had anything on Trump, they would have brought it out as they tried with a bunch of nothing burgers in 2016 and 2020. But now that he acted like this, I think the jury's out. But where the jury is not out is on the majority of people on the plane, on the flight logs, are Democrats, are big power brokers like Bill Gates. And we know some people in the Trump administration have been heavily implicated. I'm not going to name names. And so but you nailed it when you brought up Netanyahu. So let me, if you've got time here.
I have to. We have all the time in the world. I just want to add, when Bondi said we have 10,000 hours of video, she said we have 10,000 hours of video. I had dinner last week with the vice president. He told me that was commercial pornography. They do not have videos of any powerful person in a compromising position. That's the party line that they're going with. If that's the case, why would Pam Bondi call it evidence? Why would she say it's evidence? She's not an idiot. She's the attorney general. Why would she say she has files on her desk if none of these implicated anybody? It just feels like they're covering something for sure, 100%. And I feel like they're telling a story, and the story doesn't make any sense.
Perfectly said. So, again, there's so much data I have, it would take 100 hours, but we'll go as long as you need. Here's what I'm trying to say, Bill. There are two main tracks here. Okay. Incompetence by Bondi and Patel and Bongino, or a mix of that, or pure cover-up. But undoubtedly, there's a cover-up. So here's what we know from the timeline. And I'm not trying to gonzo journalism, write myself into the story. I just do this 7 days a week. So I broke most of the different developments that happened in the last 6 months. So here's what we know, and you give me your conclusion. Trump's surrogates say they're going to release it. They get in. In March, they're given this old Epstein information at that press conference with the stupid binders. And a day and a half before that happens, I have O'Boyle, who is the main, one of the top FBI whistleblowers, exposed so much. And he says, my New York sources say they've got massive Epstein videos and files that the Democrats are suppressing and not giving to Trump. And Bondi's been set up. We're meeting with her tonight, my sources are, and she's going to expose the fact that she's been set up. The next day, she comes out and on the cover sheet of the binder says, this is phase one. I learned there's a lot more in New York with Comey's daughter and Comey running it, which we know control the file the whole time. If they don't give it to us in 24 hours, we're going to go grab it. 24 hours goes by. They go grab it. The head of the FBI in New York resigns. The guy that said dig in, don't do it. And then they're given these files. But that's the setup. Obviously, if the Democrats before Trump and after Trump and now controlled the file, and James Comey and Maureen Comey controlled it, are they going to leave stuff in that's incriminating? No, it's logical to say they're going to probably drop a dime on themselves. Not that my whistleblower was bad. They're going to drop a dime. Oh, we've really got the real file. So Trump's like, yeah, go get it. Grab it. Get them. They get the file. And then I talked to FBI sources, multiple ones. Carl Serif and others showed me the text messages. This is in late March, days after. That indeed, the way the FBI works, the top of the FBI doesn't do investigations. They get the truckloads out of New York. They send it all over the country to field offices and say, do what you want. Then the FBI, we confirm this, looks at it. It's got all this stuff about Trump in it, whether it's true or not. Bondi and them come back and say to Trump, it's got all this about you. Then you see the deer in the headlights interview 2 months ago with Bongino and Kash Patel on Fox, where they look like they're hostages. They're like, no, you can trust us. He killed himself, and Epstein acted alone and didn't do anything, and case closed. And I said this before Trump said it a week and a half ago. I said, Trump has learned, or this is a big possibility, they've spiked it with poison pills. They're not just going to take out bad stuff about them. They're going to add all the innuendo, all the Jane Does, all the stuff recycled in. Then Trump comes out through social last Saturday, 8-9 days ago, Saturday before last, and says, hey, they control the file. Not saying Epstein doesn't exist or wasn't bad. That's how the media spun it. He says they put a bunch of bull in there, which I was even able to predict. So that's one track of what it is and why he acted so scared and hysterical. The other track is he was a big playboy. He was hanging out with Epstein. He was running beauty pageants. Maybe he did some stuff he wasn't supposed to.
Sure.
And he had some deep, and now they're bringing it out. So now the jury's out on Trump. Now he's got to be suspect. But the same people that run Crossfire Hurricane, the fake Russiagate, Obama, Clapper, Comey, Brennan, that did all this, who are known fake frauds, who are known to be all over the Epstein file, who are known controlling it on the U.S. side, anything they tell me suspect, so I don't believe it right away. Then you bring up Netanyahu, and that's the key. So anytime Mossad is going to operate like this on domestic soil, they're going to need a CIA agreement and pass. This goes on for decades. And then you've got Maxwell's dad that was MI6, Mossad on record, and KGB, triple agent, highest level. The real agents are triple level or quadruple level. So you have Trump, grab it, do it. He gets it. Oh, my God, I've been set up. Then he's mad at Netanyahu. I know from behind-the-scenes sources, we're not attacking Iran months ago. Netanyahu shows up. Suddenly Trump 180s, starts doing whatever Netanyahu wants. And we know who has the full file of all the hidden cameras and all the stuff at Little Island in the Caribbean, at his facility in Zorro Ranch, New Mexico, in New York. And we had Ehud Barak there photographed dozens of times, in 30-something meetings there in New York. As all of a sudden you get a 180, as soon as Netanyahu shows up, now Trump learns what's in the FBI file. Right after that, then Netanyahu comes and tells him, and I don't believe from my sources, and this is high-level FBI, that it is Trump, but it's people in his administration, including a top financial advisor that's heavily involved. Trump wants to get his agenda through of jobs, $15 trillion investment coming in, $3 trillion already here. He wants to stop World War III. I'm not defending this. I'm saying the thinking, I've been told.
Yeah.
And so he goes, oh, my God, this is a giant new Russiagate setup. He comes out and says to my list, to his supporters.
Would I be crazy when you say, a top financial advisor. Are we talking about Epstein's neighbor?
We are.
Okay, interesting, and that makes sense.
Which shows how informed you are, and I'm not trying to be a mean person.
Yeah.
Because he may even be innocent. We were talking about Lutnick.
That's right, Howard Lutnick. Don't sue me. Kidding.
Well, it's beyond suing. This is like
the
intel agencies think we're stupid.
They're going to find me in the pool. Yeah, you're right. Now.
No, well, let's just say you brought it out. You're smart to figure it out. Nobody else was. I'm sure it's true.
Yeah.
They're blackmailing him with Lutnick. I've confirmed that from the FBI. And it's not that Lutnick did anything wrong, but yeah. And yeah.
Here's my question. We have Ghislaine Maxwell sitting in a jail, I believe in Tallahassee in Florida. We have Alex Acosta, who supposedly there was an unsourced or privately sourced, unnamed sourced person that Vicky Ward quoted saying Alex Acosta said, I was told to stand down. Epstein belonged to intelligence. That is why he was not prosecuted.
Yeah, that was the federal prosecutor. The
right, to the fullest extent of the law. Why do we not, and by we I mean the Trump administration, the American people, demand that Maxwell testifies in front of Congress and that Alexander Acosta testifies in front of Congress about whatever this operation was? I think me and you have a good idea about what it was. But it's a vile operation. It destroyed the lives of children. No civilized society can exist ignoring things like this. And it also opens up many questions about a financial system that we barely understand that involves oligarchs, criminals, human traffickers, drug smugglers, and our own political class, by the way. This is why Nancy Pelosi has been so quiet about this. Let's be very honest, because she has no problem with, obviously making lots and lots of money. And lots of our politicians, I mean, Barack Obama, these $30 million homes in Martha's Vineyard or whatever they are. Why don't we demand that they testify, Alex?
Well, and, Tim, I don't do this when regular people interview me. I'm not kissing your ass. I was about to go, before you said Ghislaine Maxwell testify, I was about to go to this. So that's where I was going next.
Yeah.
Here's the issue with that. She's in prison for human trafficking. And you've got these lawyers connected to Epstein saying months ago, Alan Dershowitz, Trump better pardon her. And even before Elon came out and said, hey, Trump's in the list, you're never going to see it, which then has a lot more credibility now because of this. It doesn't mean Trump did anything wrong, but he's implicated. He's embarrassed by it. The issue with Ghislaine Maxwell is she's in prison for decades. So you can't trust somebody to testify who has already not implicated other people, but now that she's convicted in prison, maybe she'll say that I was involved. And I'm being sarcastic, but
right.
my point is that pressure mounts for Ghislaine Maxwell to be released to testify before Congress. I am of the thought that full disclosure is the way to go.
Yeah.
From all my research and sources, Trump wasn't actually involved in any of this. And they're going to be able to continue to blackmail if they don't. So I think justice be done by the heavens fall. But the thinking is, if they implicate all these big tech titans like Bill Gates that was heavily involved in all this, and his wife left him over it and said he should have to answer those questions. I'm not saying what he did. If all these Silicon Valley people come out and things, Trump's being told this will crash the stock market, this will bring down America, this is a setup. And I'm not defending that decision, but I can logically, from a sick position, get it. I agree with you. I think the world will think we're back in business if we actually exercise all these demons, because this stuff's going all over the place as well. The EU's been caught in giant pedophile rings of government.
This is driving people insane, and I think it's justifiably so that people at the highest levels can get away with stuff like this and that it can be covered up forever. And I think a lot of people...
It's the two-tier justice system.
Right.
It's emblematic of everything.
Yeah, it's emblematic of everything. What I told Vance, I said, if you don't disclose everything, you're done. Nobody will support you guys. You are fully and completely part of this cover-up if everything doesn't come out. I think it paralyzes their presidency
And what
completely.
did Vance say?
He agrees with me. He agrees with me. You know, like it really is.
Yeah, even Mike Johnson came out a week ago and said release it.
I mean, he agrees with me. The calls are coming from inside the house. We know that Benjamin Netanyahu shows up. We then immediately see an about face, which is completely crazy, by the president of the United States. And again, I'm not a paranoid Israel hater, but their activity over the last 6 months is completely insane. They're bombing churches. They're starving people. They're shooting people that are...
They bombed Syria today. But here's the deal.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. I've studied who the main threats to U.S. Communist China, big financial interest. I'm the guy that everybody said was defending Israel. No, I was just saying they're not the most important bloc. They're varied. But yeah, absolutely. Because we've knocked out the Democrats to a great extent, because they've cut off the U.S. aid money and the deep state money, Israel, with Netanyahu, sees a power vacuum and is definitely trying a hostile takeover of the administration. So that's 100% going on.
Are you worried about these connections with Palantir, with using technology to Palantir technology to merge all of the different departments, so that if you have information on you with the IRS, that's now merging with your arrest record, and if you've attended a protest and whatever the case may be. We see in the UK people are getting sent to jail for tweets. We see all over the world, and we know, of course, the Chinese social credit score system. This feels a lot like a precursor episode with Max Blumenthal, who wrote an article in the Gray Zone with Trump insiders talking about where Charlie Kirk was mentally in the last few weeks and months of his life, and the things he was feeling and the pressure he was under. I didn't know Charlie. I'd never met him. I knew people that knew him well. Everybody liked him. Both people I know on the Democratic side liked him, and people on the Republican side obviously liked him. But, you know, that was one of the most disturbing things I had ever seen in my life. The man is a husband, a father. Even if he wasn't, he's a human being. He's sitting there. He's engaging in conversations with people. And he was brutally murdered in front of his wife and children. I'm not a sanctimonious guy. I dressed up as a dead healthcare CEO on Netflix. I'm not someone who is out there being a purveyor of good taste, but I just don't understand how, after witnessing that murder, you could be gleefully celebrating this attack. I think you're at a very bad place spiritually, in your life, if you're celebrating the murder of a person like that. I mean, again, this wasn't, a lot of what I do on the program, we make fun of the news, we make fun of what's happening. A lot of it's dark comedy. So I don't go out there and police people's reactions or tell them what to say. But if that's the first reaction you have to that video is to celebrate this, or, I mean, you can't be doing great. You can't be doing great. If if you're celebrating the murder of this man, I don't think you're at a good place in your life. And, like I said, I saw the video. I watched it one time. I would not rewatch it. I found it to be, I didn't know what I was watching. I was on a plane to Austin with Louis, actually, and he was doing shows down there. And I saw this video, and I was like, it was maybe the worst thing I have ever seen. When I picked up my phone, it was unbelievable. And a lot of people I know, people that I'm, in their orbit comedically or for whatever reason were, I understand people trying to be funny about terrible things. I understand failed attempts at making things funny. I've had them myself. I get it. But some people, the joy, the glee, the delight in this man's assassination, again, I don't understand how you could look at his wife, who's collapsing in front of his casket, who's crying, where the children are asking where their father is. I cannot get to that place where I can understand enjoying that. And it scares me that there's a lot of people that are there. And people that I kind of, kind of somewhat know, not close friends, but like people that I am aware of and, kind of, have worked with and know from the life that I've lived. Like, I had disagreements with Charlie Kirk, some substantive ones. I have disagreements with most people. You do not have to agree with someone to not enjoy their murder. This is something that should be obvious. You don't have to agree with someone to not delight in their murder. This guy's life was ended. His family was shattered. It's inhumane. And I understand that this is what's going to happen inevitably to people as the country drifts into this kind of schizophrenic fever dream where nothing is real and people are, living online and they're radicalized and everyone's an enemy and everybody's dehumanizing them. And everybody feels for whatever reason that this type of thing is justified. And it's a terrible omen for the future of America if people think that a guy who's willing to sit at a campus and engage in debate with students should be assassinated. I can't understand that. That's not something that I'm open to understanding. I think it's a pathology. I don't think it's a political point of view when someone's head is blown off in front of their children, and for someone to say, "Oh, good." It's not a political point of view. That's kind of a deeply destructive pathology. And I don't think that, I understand, again, people trying to make a horrible situation funny and failing and doing things that are in bad taste. I've done them myself. I get it. That's not really what I'm talking about here. That's not what I saw that was the most disturbing. What I saw that was the most disturbing was the complete delight and joy in seeing someone cut down like that. I don't agree with a lot of the people that run the state that I'm sitting in right now. It's California. I feel they've been incredibly destructive to my living in the sense that, like, I think they've ruined large swaths of the most beautiful state in the union. I think their policies have driven business out of the state. They've increased crime, and I agree with their policies on some things, right? Like I'm pro-choice, I'm pro-gay marriage, I'm pro, on a lot of the social issues, I have kind of a libertarian view. So like states like New York and California, I'll agree with them on certain things, and then on other things, I don't agree with them, right? I don't agree with like pick a gender day in preschool or whatever's happening. Like, obviously, there's things that I don't agree with at all. And I would never want any of the people that I disagree with to die. I would never want any of the people who I politically disagree with on any issue to be shot in front of their children. I don't understand. I think you're at a place in your life. If you're enjoying that, you're at a very bad place in your life. You're not at a good place in your life. I mean, that's all I can say. I don't know many well-adjusted, happy people with their own children, their own partner, wife, whatever, girlfriend, boyfriend, a dog you like. I mean, anything that you love or care about. I can't imagine someone with that type of life seeing that guy's body tense up and then and slump down, watching the last moments of his life and gleefully celebrating it. It just, to me, is I don't understand. I can't. I was looking at some of these things kind of shocked. And I'm not a sanctimonious guy. I'm not a guy that is offended by much. I'm almost offended by almost nothing. Not nothing, but when you're a person who's done comedy for years and you've been in this fucking world for years on the internet, you can't really be, sensitive. It doesn't work. It's not, it would be the death knell for whatever you wanted to do in any type of public life if you were sensitive or if you internalized everything or took everything to heart. I mean, that being said, when you see somebody, treating this like it's Christmas or, some of the reactions I've seen are from people that are deeply, 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 I guess, depressed, or they feel hopeless or helpless, and they're reacting in a kind of in a state of rage, and they're not, and in that they're denying their humanity and they're not thinking about things like a human being. I understand not liking someone. I understand thinking their policies make your life harder. I understand having fundamental disagreements with people. Fundamental disagreements, by the way, not like little things. I understand that there's people in my life I have fundamental disagreements with on major issues, big issues, and I still remain friends with them because I believe that humanity is incredibly important, and that people respect the fact that people are human beings that come from different places, have different belief systems, have different faiths, have different ways of doing things. And, and Charlie Kirk was not a crazy extremist. He made inflammatory statements. A lot of people make inflammatory statements, but if you listen to the context and a lot of what he said, the guy was not like a psychopath. He had a definite belief system that, he sat down and talked with people about. If you're for the assassination of that person, I can't quite get into your head. I said this in 2020 when people were talking about the need for violence, not only protests, violence. And I said, this goes to a terrible place. If you stop having conversations, if you stop debating people, if you stop listening to people, or if you stop, America doesn't have to be any one thing. That's why there's 50 states, and people that live in San Francisco don't necessarily have to agree with people who live in Maryland or people who live in Texas or people who live in Wyoming. There are 50 state legislatures, 50 governors, There's a reason, and different states need different things, value different things, whatever. I just can't see the value in celebrating someone's death. I mean, whenever there's a weapon, number one, everybody uses it. So anybody celebrating this, it will come for you. It will come for someone on your side eventually. I don't understand, but I don't think people are thinking about that. I think it's the raw, visceral feeling that someone that they viewed negatively's life was cut short, and they're enjoying that. And it really is, it's fucked up. The interview we're doing is actually really disturbing. It's one of the more disturbing ones that I've done. And it's a viral article that is going viral after this. And it's trying to, again, it doesn't suggest that Charlie Kirk was murdered by Israel. But this article, which is going viral, is a disturbing portrait of a lot of the pressures that not only Charlie but other people were under. And another thing I just want to say, and before I go, because I know it's not like I mean, if I had a dispute with DoorDash and Kash Patel was investigating it, would I get the credit? Would I get the DoorDash credit if Kash Patel was tasked with an investigation? Would I get the DoorDash credit or would I not? I imagine I would not. I imagine if there was a discrepancy on a DoorDash order, the head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Kash Patel, would not be able to secure my credit of $11.90. What is this guy doing? I mean, the guy that did this to Charlie's, his parents turned him in. I mean, what could Kash Patel run? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tim Dillon episode, the podcast. I'm going on not too many hours of sleep. I had a lot of fun with Tony Hinchcliffe and Joe DeRosa last night in Manhattan at the Stand Comedy Club and Restaurant. Free ad for those dirtbags whom I love, who own that club. And we had a great time. Best comedy club food in the world, by the way. If you haven't been to the Stand Comedy Club and Restaurant, owned by two criminals who are endeared to me, go, because it is excellent. The food is excellent. It is. And the comedy is happening. Food is excellent, and the comedy is provably going on. It's there. It is happening, and some of it is quite good. Some of it is quite excellent. Truly. And we had fun with DeRosa and Hinchcliffe, just talking shit, having fun. Had a couple of cigarettes, which I no longer do, but the throat. And tomorrow opening for Louis at Forest Hills Stadium. Louis was very nice to ask me to open for him on his tour. He's on a crazy tour all over the world with P. Diddy. And they are touring, and he asked me to open it up, and I will, and I am. So how about that? So it's a lot of fun. Turning our attention to Gaza. No, I'm kidding. Every week, you know, with this, every week, I mean, it really is. I mean, the situation is worsening, and I don't want to talk about it every week, but then I feel bad if I don't talk about it. But who really cares? I mean, I do a show in front of an inflatable cactus. I mean, not now. I have the summer backdrop. But you know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here? But also, you got to say something about it because it's not good. But I've been saying things about it for a while. And it doesn't need to be that game. We don't need to play that game of who was first. But I have been saying things about it for a while. Many people in the entertainment industry, the industry that I am in, are now saying things about it like today. And I'm not saying I was kind of like, right after October 7th was like, take a minute, obviously respond. You know, I wasn't one of those people either. I wasn't like on October 8th going crazy in the quad of Columbia campus with like a burqa on, screaming and yelling. I wasn't doing any of that. I am a rational adult who just kind of like, you know, you wake up, you have an oatmeal, you know, or whatever, and then you kind of go about your day. But there's a lot of, killing on the social media now. Sorry, there is. And I don't like that. So I say, no, cut it out. And people say to me, well, you don't understand. And I don't. And I actually don't. So that's the statement. We got to go back to this country fighting about, like, the Minnesota Vikings hired a dude to be a cheerleader. Every fight in America now is existential. It's not about dumb crap. We always used to fight about dumb shit that didn't really matter. Like that fat bitch is trying to get gay marriage overturned. Kim Davis, that court clerk, they tried to make certify a whatever. Look at this twink jumping around with Minnesota. Now, by the way, you think this is the biggest problem Minnesota has? Don't they have, like, lots of problems? But anyway, this is the stuff as a country we were, like, designed to fight about. We're really good at that. But now we're fighting about, like, is the election valid? Is the CIA in a war with the president? Is the president federalizing the police? Like, are the states going to declare war against the federal government by not letting ICE do whatever? I'm just saying the problems now are not fun. They used to be kind of fun. No, I mean, really. Obviously not for everyone. But we've gotten to a point now where everything we fight about and everything we're having an argument about is of the utmost importance. And, like, when everything's at an 11, nothing is. Really. So it's like everybody's so tired of everything that we need this. We need the Minnesota Vikings to do something like this because we need to go back to arguing about something that we can't even wrap our heads around. Can't even wrap our head around half of this. Like Gabbard's out there, Tulsi Gabbard's out there with Russiagate, and that's a real thing, to be sure, but it's hard to wrap your head around that as a person that isn't, like, familiar with, like, whatever, the layers of power. I mean, we do this every week, but at least with this, people immediately go, oh, it's a guy doing something a girl did, and we don't like it. We're mad about it. Thank God we have this and more things like it. Please, more things like it. More like food items that we don't like or they're very contentious. People getting angry about, like, a food item. Like, I remember years ago, Burger King did a bacon sundae, and people were like, this is over the line, Things like that make, cultural conversations and moments. Yeah, remember the bacon sundae at Burger King? People are like, God damn it. Every now and then, a fast food restaurant puts out something so grotesque. The KFC Double Down, there's a history of these. There are a history of moments where fast food companies push it over the line, and it makes us all think about what's going on in our lives and what we've allowed to happen. I'm not saying Russiagate's not worthy of looking into. I'm just saying for the regular person out there, it is easier to see the problem in a bacon sundae than it is Russiagate. They don't understand. They don't know who John Brennan is or Clapper or Hayden. Yes, maybe they could all start reading books, and they don't know about the Dulles brothers, but they know that bacon on a sundae isn't good unless it's like a very weird thing at a fancy restaurant. Everyone takes one bite of it and goes, ooh. But you shouldn't get it through a drive-through. There's been a long history of these things, the Double Down, the Burger King Bacon Sundae, egregious thing. So I would like if a fast food restaurant were to do something egregious so that we could start fighting about that, arguing about that, something really like, it's the fall's coming up. So maybe something, maybe it's a burger and the bun is on a cider donut or something like an apple cider donut, or it's a whole pumpkin sundae where the whole entire pumpkin is filled with ice cream and candy for Halloween. Something that is so heinous that most people say, wait, stop it now. Stop it now. You're trying to kill us. It was good that the Minnesota Vikings hired a male. They should do all fat cheerleaders. That nun that was on Tucker, that woman, put her as a cheerleader. Get the photo of that lovely nun up. Put her as a cheerleader. Get people talking is what I'm trying to say here. By the way, these frogs over in France are mentioning me in the Candace Owens lawsuit. What did I do? What, is it my fault your wife has a dong? Who cares? What does Patrick Bet-David, what did he say to Anthony Weiner? He's like, you try to get girls, show you your ding-a-ling. So what? Brigitte Macron, she maybe allegedly has a ding-a-ling. So what? I mentioned in the lawsuit, on April 26, Owens appeared on the Tim Dillon show. And then they do my whole, he's a comedian, podcaster, actor. They have a better bio for me in the Candace Owens lawsuit than my agent does, by the way. The bio in the Candace Owens lawsuit is actually better than anything CAA has done for me. Tim Dillon started the show by telling Owens he was asked about the series while checking into a hotel and said it has blown up. Owens replied, oh, everywhere. I mean, it's the most international thing I've ever done. So the Macrons are suing Candace, and her appearance on my show is in the lawsuit. I mean, it's just a moment of pride. If you've been a fan of this show for a while, and a lot of you have, I meet people all the time that have been, listening since 2016 or the beginning. A lot of people are new, but to think about this, to be named in a lawsuit is a mark of pride. The president of France's wife is suing Candace Owens, who said she was a man, and I'm mentioned in that lawsuit. And that's actually, because you start this business, you don't know where it's going to go. I didn't know where it was going to go when I started it. And that's what I'll tell people out there that are young and are walking down an uncertain path to this moment in their life where they realize it's all actually been worth it. There's a lot of people that are going, am I on the right path? Are the sacrifices worth it? And the answer is yes, because I'm sitting before you today named in a lawsuit. The president of France's wife may or may not have a cock. We're all going to court to figure this out. We're going to court to figure out whether the president of France's wife has a cock. We don't know. We don't know. No one knows. And I mentioned in that lawsuit because I helped further the conversation. And that, to me, is something special. Is it a big movie? Who can't? No. But what? No. Who's doing that? What we're doing is advancing an important conversation on this earth. Does the president of France's wife have a cock or not? That's what people are thinking about as their kids are laying in a hospital bed. They're not thinking about how much the bills cost. They're going, does she have a cock, and what's it like? I mean, I'm just saying it's a proud moment as an American. Dillon discussed MK Ultra and similar programs. By the way, this is in a lawsuit. It's truly amazing. Like I read through it. I read the pages where I was mentioned. And it is amazing that this, just take a minute, just zoom out for a minute, Okay? Because, by the way, and even though I was being facetious about movies, Weapons is amazing and Naked Gun is great. I saw Naked Gun and that's great. So I am not as black-pilled on movies as I was. I do believe, and I'm working on stuff, and other people I know are working on stuff, very talented people. I think there's more to this than just, hey, there's people on the internet all the time, which is great. But there's also the ability to execute and do things well on other platforms. And I'm not giving up on movies. I don't think anyone should. I don't think anyone should, contrary to what I may have said last week. I'm not always right. But when we look at how big podcasting has gotten, weirdly, I don't know why this one did it for me, the election and the dumb interviews on CNN. None of it mattered. My friends are in arenas and stuff. That didn't matter. It was this lawsuit. I just thought it was very funny. I just started laughing. I said, isn't that funny that the president of France and his wife are mentioning my show in a court case about whether his wife has a cock? And that, to me, is making it. That's what it is. That's what it feels like, and it feels good. I'm in this thing. I'm in this thing, and we're riding till the wheels come off here. I'm in deep now in this thing of whether or not this man's wife has a cock. They brought me into it. They brought me into it. You start a podcast because you think you're going to have a travelogue on Comedy Central. That's what I thought. I was going to get paid to travel around the world and eat things and then make jokes about them on television. Because that's what every comedian wanted. Between the years of 2010, I'll give you a little comedy history that no one cares about. Between the era of 2010 and 2015, most comedians were pursuing a travelogue. Everybody had been living in hellish apartments in Brooklyn or in Los Angeles, and everybody, their dream was to travel around the country because Dave Attell had one called Insomniac. And Bourdain, who wasn't a comedian, obviously had the most famous one called Parts Unknown. And we were like, what about a funny travel food leisure show? What about that? And everybody went and to their agent manager and said, hey, man, I really want to just travel. And I want to do a travelogue because I like food and I like places. No one had a rationale for why they want. They were like, I like going places. I like traveling. And we were all trying to get travelogues. So I started a podcast as a hey, my travelogue was on a tour bus because I was a tour bus guide at the time, making $15 an hour for a big bus, getting a lot of complaints. And then I was like, but this is going to be a travelogue where the bus is going to go to different places. I'm going to be on top of it doing my analysis. And then, and it's going to be great. And I'm going to make like $100,000. That was my dream. I was like, I'll make $100,000. Now, I am mentioned in a lawsuit. The president of France mentioned me in a lawsuit about whether his wife has a cock. Do you see what can happen out there if you just focus and trust the process? Really, trust the process, because I thought I would be doing really artistic stuff. But you have to trust it. The world will find a place for you. Many people doubt this. The world is going to find it. You don't choose it, by the way. Everything's they walk around choosing everything. It's this illusion of our society that you walk around choosing things because you choose, like me and my friend just got coffee and you get to choose the little thing. You sweetener? No. Down that? You get to choose that. you know? But you don't get to choose necessarily how the world sees you or where you fit into the world. You might walk around going, I'm Kevin Costner. But guess what? You're not. Number one, you're not. Number two, he just lost a lot of money on that dumb movie, whatever it was called, Horizon. Okay? And number three, he'd love to be in this lawsuit. He'd love it. Kevin Costner would love to be in this lawsuit about whether the president of France's wife has a cock or a pussy or something in between or nothing, like a doll. We don't know. I got in this going, I'll have a show, because I liked Curb Your Enthusiasm. I go, how funny. Isn't that funny? But you got to trust the process. You end up where you belong, and this is such an interesting moment here. It's such an interesting moment to be in a cultural conversation that matters this much to people. You know, and I know that people are going to not get it. They're not going to get it. They're not going to get it. They go, oh, well, what are you guys doing? What are you podcasters doing that's going to stand the test of time? A lot of people are saying that. What are you, and my answer to that is fascism. That will, I'm pretty sure that'll last for a few years, but I kid. I love ethos. I mean, I cannot stop with the ethos. I'm telling you right now, when you lose someone close to you, you can't help but think about the future. Would your family be prepared financially if anything were to happen to you? The last thing you want your family to worry about is how they're going to pay the bills. With your life insurance from Ethos, your family's protected. I've talked to so many of my friends about doing this, and they've all done it, and they're all secure, and they're sleeping soundly because they know their family is going to be taken care of. The traditional life insurance process is complicated, but Ethos makes it easy. It's an online platform that getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not months. There's no complicated process. It's 100% online. No medical exam required. You can just answer a few health questions. Get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. You can get same-day coverage without ever leaving your house. Life insurance is more affordable than you think. With Ethos, you can get a free quote and customize your rate that fits your budget. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies as low as $2 a day billed monthly. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/TIM. That's ethos.com/TIM. I don't love this takeover of the this militarized police. I don't love it. I do understand we have a crime problem in cities. I'm not blind to it. I get it. I see people all the time, and I go, that's a problem. Not in a racial way. I'll just see someone who sparks my concern. Someone who seems like they're on drugs or a shifty-looking character, you know? And I'll say somebody's got to deal with that. But it's got to be the cops, right? We don't need National Guard, or do we? I don't know that we do. All of the stuff that's happening right now, the militarized police, Palantir building the list. I don't love all of this. It seems like the precursor to the next thing. And the next thing might be much worse than this one. Maybe not. But what are they? Is this, get up? What is this? Big Balls got beat up. Elon Musk's guy got beat up. And then now we've got the military in D.C. because he tried to help a carjacking victim. Well, that's your first mistake. I don't get involved, by the way. So this guy, Big Balls, Edward Corsetine, he does something heroic. I think he tries to help a carjacking victim. Here's why I'll never help anyone. Ready? Friend of mine helps a woman getting hassled on the train. A guy takes out a knife or a box cutter. I forget. It doesn't matter. He slices my friend's face. My friend then is in court with this guy. The chick he was helping goes and testifies on behalf of the guy who was roughing her up. That was all I needed.